Alright, so the project today is with this moped or scooter. This is the first vehicle I learned to drive on when I was 14. It's a 2004 Kymco Super 9S. It's a 50cc two-stroke liquid-cooled scooter. It hasn't been run in probably a year, maybe longer. And if I remember right, the last time I drove it, it drove fine, came over here to my parents' house, and when I went to restart it, it would never start. I think it has spark. I can spray fuel or spray starting fluid into it and it won't run. So I don't know if the spark issue is intermittent. But the plan is to get this thing running again because it's summertime and a good time to ride. So let's load it up. Definitely on purpose. I think we'll start by seeing if this thing has any spark at all. Okay, so let's try to throw some fuel in there and see if it'll kick over. Let's try a new spark plug. Okay, so this is a few days later, and here's kind of where I'm at now. So before we had spark, you guys saw previously it sparked just fine. I assume the carb was probably clogged. I took the carburetor off, also took the reed valve out. The reed valve was perfect, no issues with that. It just wasn't making sense. I was putting fuel directly into the combustion chamber with spark and taking the carburetor out of the equation, and it wouldn't even fire over or act like it was gonna fire over. So I went ahead and pulled the top cap off of the head, and if you can see, there isn't really a lot of scoring, really. You can still see some of the cross hatching on the cylinder wall, but that's the only thing that is kind of making sense right now, is that maybe there's just not any compression or not enough compression to start. Because I actually switched out I had a spare CDI box. They both work, they both create spark, fully charged battery. So yeah, I can't really think of anything else that's causing it not to fire at all outside of maybe just low compression. So luckily I have another one of these scooter moped things, and I may pull the cylinder or the piston and head out of that one and swap it over here just to see if it will fire over. Alright, so the cylinder head's off, and I've removed one of the little C-clips here, so I'm going to try to push the wrist pin out. Piston, and then the bearing. Maybe a little bit of scoring there. It's not very deep if it is, but overall the piston itself looks pretty good. Like nothing crazy. I don't know, I guess we'll see if the other one starts. Alright, so I sent pictures, more detailed pictures that I'll show you here, of the cylinder head and the piston to a friend of mine who has been a motorcycle mechanic for probably 10 plus years, and he said these look trashed. So I think the next step is to grab the piston and the cylinder head off of the parts scooter and try those out just to see if it will run. That other scooter has about the same mileage as this one, but I know it for sure it ran last time it was parked. So at minimum it should fire over. At least I'll know it may be worth spending the money on in the future for a brand new cylinder head and piston. These are kind of hard to come by because it's kind of rare to have a two-stroke 50cc scooter that's also liquid cooled. So a lot of the replacement cylinder heads and pistons are just for air-cooled engines. But I found a few for a couple $100. Talking to my friend, what probably caused this is poor air filtration. He said it looked like it had sucked in a lot of sand and debris over the years. Now I lived in an area that had lots and lots of sort of mountainous dirt roads, so I did a whole lot of dirt road riding with this thing, and the air filtration system, it was basically just like a sponge that was almost see-through, so not much filtration at all, and I should have recognized that. But yeah, we'll give it a go with the other piston and cylinder head and see if that works. Okay, so here are the new parts. I just pulled off the other scooter. They don't look terrible. Maybe a little bit better than what I just pulled off. And really this is just about proof of concept. If the scooter happens to start up just fine, At least I'll know that it probably just needs a piston and cylinder head worst case scenario. So this one does actually look a little bit better. Definitely not as scored up as what I was seeing on the original. And by the way, this scooter has about, let's see, almost 11,000 kilometers. So nearing 7,000 miles, I think. But go ahead and clean this up a little bit more, and then we'll start to reinstall. Alright, I finally got that little clip in to hold the wrist pin in place. So I'll kind of work the head back onto the crankcase here. Feels pretty smooth. All right, so that's awesome. So now at least we know it has compression, it will fire now. So I think I'll go ahead and throw the exhaust back on and then start reattaching the carburetor, and then we'll go about bleeding the coolant system. This one is usually pretty easy. All I've really ever had to do is just top off the coolant while it's running and circulating, and we should be back in business. Okay, so before I get everything hooked back up again, bleed the cooling system, and put on the air cleaner, I'm just going to see if I can get it to pull some fuel and idle. Okay, so something happened with the GoPro and it did not record audio for about the next minute of the video. So basically what I'm doing here, removing the carburetor bowl, it did have quite a bit of debris and junk in the bottom, even though I did use ethanol-free gas. So I'm pulling out the needles. This first one was not clogged at all. It was pretty well clear. I could see through it. The second jet was pretty clogged, so I put that through the air compressor, cleaned it out, reassembled everything. Put fuel in the combustion chamber, tried to start it again, never would pull fuel, never would start, but check this out. So what I was noticing was every time I would remove the spark plug after trying to start it, it would like release pressure from the combustion chamber. Like the combustion chamber was pressurized, which was weird. I've never had that experience before when removing a spark plug. So I'm like, it worked without the exhaust. So I look back in the exhaust tip, and a mud wasp had built a nest and completely 100% clogged up the exhaust tip. So this whole time, that was most likely the issue. It did not need a cylinder head or piston or anything like that. I was like, this has got to be the problem. So I kind of jabbed it with a screwdriver, cleared it all out for the most part, and then I retry to start the thing again. So needless to say, I felt like a total idiot just not checking something simple as the freaking exhaust tip. Never would have thought that would have been the cause of the problem, but I should have thought something was up. Totally makes sense now, but that at the time I was just looking for every other possible problem instead of just simply testing out checking the exhaust. All right, take 3. So I took the exhaust off again, cleaned it up a little bit better. I think that's cleared up now, so let's try this again. Oh yeah. So from here, we'll go ahead and bleed the coolant system and then put the air cleaner back on with a nice oiled filter, and then put the battery back in, and we should be good to go for a test drive. So that is the coolant reservoir there. So go ahead and start the engine and then start refilling the cooling system. We'll start it up, and then I will slowly add fluid. See if the kickstart works. All that trouble over a wasp nest. It's insane. So I'm gonna ride over to my parents' house wearing my mountain bike helmet to get my real motorcycle helmet, and then we'll go for a test ride.